The 105th minute, extra time. The corner came in, Jonathan Tah rose higher than everyone else and headed the ball into the net. The entire German bench jumped to its feet. At that very moment, the four-time world champions had gone through. Then, the referee ran over to check the monitor. And the goal disappeared. A few minutes later, Germany were going home, knocked out by a team ranked 34th in the world in their very first knockout match. But if you think today was only about one wrong refereeing decision, then you have only seen the surface. Because the round that just swallowed Germany did not even exist 4 years ago. Someone built it. The question is why? And the answer has almost nothing to do with football. Go back to that exact moment and look very closely. The corner was delivered by Nathaniel Brown. Tah charged toward the far post, rose higher than everyone else, and headed the ball low into the net. A beautiful, decisive goal, exactly the kind German center-backs have been scoring for decades. The Moroccan referee, Jalal Jayed, initially allowed the goal. The match should have swung completely to one side. Then, the VAR team stepped in. The man in the VAR room that day was Carlos del Cerro Grande. He believed center-back Waldemar Anton had committed a foul by blocking Paraguay goalkeeper Orlando Gil, preventing him from making the save. Referee Jade was invited to review the pitch-side monitor, and after watching it back, he overturned his own decision. The goal was wiped out. Now I want you to hear what people who understand the laws better than you and I had to say about this. On ESPN, Andy Davies, a former referee with more than 12 seasons in England's top flight, gave a blunt analysis. In his view, this was not an obstruction foul. The goal should have stood. Both the VAR intervention and the referee's reversal were poor decisions. The reason was almost unbelievably simple. Anton had every right to hold his position. It was the goalkeeper who charged into Anton, then went down after feeling the contact. The player who falls is not always the player who has been fouled. On BBC, the legend Alan Shearer did not hold back either. He called the so-called foul very, very soft and said plainly that he did not agree with the decision at all. And on Fox, right between the two halves of extra time, the legendary former goalkeeper Peter Schmeichel, who understands better than almost anyone what a real challenge on a goalkeeper looks like, summed it up in one sentence. I do not think it was a foul. They got it wrong. 3 people, 3 different football cultures. The same conclusion. To understand just how heavy this was, you need to know one thing. This was the first time in all of history that Germany lost a penalty shootout at the World Cup. It had never happened before. The disallowed goal came at the exact moment when Germany were about to take the lead. It did not just take away a goal, it pushed the 4-time world champions into the very shootout where they had never tasted defeat. But if the story stops here, if this is only about one bad decision by one referee, then you are falling into the same trap almost everyone falls into. Because one bad decision, no matter how terrible, should not be powerful enough to kill off an entire giant of international football. So why was it powerful enough this time? The answer lies in that round itself. Let me explain, because this is the part that almost no broadcaster is willing to spell out clearly. Before this year, the World Cup had only 32 teams. After the group stage, if a team had one bad match, they still had a chance to recover in the next 2 games. There was room for mistakes. There was room to bounce back. This year, FIFA expanded the tournament to 48 teams. And to fit 48 teams into the same competition, they had to create an entirely new round, the round of 32, a knockout stage immediately after the group stage. 4 years ago, this round did not even exist. And this is where everything changed. The group stage still gives you 3 matches to prove you deserve to advance. But once you reach the round of 32, there is only one match. Win and you move on. Lose and you go home. There is no second game to make things right. A powerhouse like Germany can dominate possession, can clearly outplay the opposition, but all it takes is one moment, one refereeing decision, and an entire World Cup campaign, prepared over 4 years, is gone. In other words, you have just heard me tell the story of a goal that was ruled out in the 105th minute. But what truly destroyed Germany was not just that disallowed goal. It was the fact that they had been thrown into a round that gave them absolutely no margin for error. Think about it this way. If the old format had still been in place, Germany could have lost today and still had a path forward. But FIFA removed that safety net. in the very same tournament where the referee made a decision that 3 independent experts all said was wrong. Put those two things together, and this is not a random coincidence. They are two pieces of the same system. Now, the natural question is this: why did FIFA create such a dangerous new round, a round they knew could eliminate even the biggest football nations? The answer is not on the pitch. It lies somewhere else entirely. I am not going to give you vague statistics. I'm going to give you real numbers so you can see the bigger picture for yourself. Back in 2022, in Qatar, the World Cup still had 64 matches and 32 teams. This year, there are 104 matches and 48 teams. That is 40 additional matches in a single tournament. Every extra match creates another broadcast window for advertising, another stadium filled with paying fans, and another package of television rights to sell. And the final figure reflects exactly that. For this World Cup alone, FIFA expects to generate nearly $9 billion in revenue, almost 20% more than in Qatar. If you look at the entire 4-year cycle leading up to this tournament, FIFA's target rises to $13 billion. Keep those two numbers separate. One refers only to this tournament, while the other covers the entire 4-year cycle, because many people confuse the two. And what about ticket prices? In Qatar, the cheapest ticket cost around $55. This year, the equivalent ticket has climbed to nearly $560, almost 10 times higher. FIFA has said that it still offers a lower-priced ticket category at around $60, but that category accounts for only about 1/10 of each national team's ticket allocation. The remaining 9/10 are sold at the new market prices. FIFA President Gianni Infantino explained that FIFA is a non-profit organization and that the money it earns is reinvested into its 211 member associations around the world. On the surface, that sounds reasonable, but place these two facts side by side. On one hand, you have an organization that says it does not operate for profit. On the other, you have an organization that increased the number of matches by 60% while raising ticket prices by almost 10 times, all in the very same tournament. Do those two things naturally fit together? Or is this the real reason behind the round of 32, the very round where Germany's World Cup came to an end? Before we go any further, I want to pause for a moment and be fair to FIFA, because if you only listen to one side, you are no different from the channels that criticize everything just for the sake of it. Their argument is not entirely unreasonable. Expanding the tournament to 48 teams means many smaller nations have reached the World Cup for the first time in their history. Fans in countries that had never before seen their national team on football's biggest stage now finally have that opportunity. And upsets like Paraguay eliminating Germany are exactly the kind of moments that make the tournament more exciting and less predictable. That is the strongest argument FIFA can make. But this is where that argument begins to lose its footing. Even football experts, including those who support expanding the game to more countries, have warned that growing the tournament too quickly could dilute the overall quality of competition. And Germany became living proof of that. They dominated possession throughout the first half, clearly outplayed their opponents, yet still went home simply because this new format left them with no second chance. So the so-called romance of shocking upsets sounds wonderful in headlines. But behind that emotional narrative lies a very cold calculation. The more teams you have, the more matches you create, and the more opportunities there are for a major upset. And every upset becomes another story to sell, another headline to spread, another reason for viewers to stay engaged for one more tournament. To put it plainly, unpredictability is not a side effect of this tournament. It is part of the business model. Now I want you to look back one more time, but this time, do not focus on a single match. Look at the entire journey. In 2018, Germany, the reigning world champions, were eliminated in the group stage. In 2022, they went out in the group stage once again. And now, in 2026, they made it through the group stage only to fall in their very first knockout match. 3 consecutive World Cups, 3 early exits. The last time Germany made a deep run in the tournament was in 2014 when they lifted the trophy. So if you place all the blame on one VAR decision, you are overlooking a far more uncomfortable truth. This is not a giant at the peak of its powers that suddenly stumbled because of bad luck. This is a giant that has been struggling for more than a decade, only to walk into the harshest tournament structure FIFA has ever created. Now put the 3 pieces together. A national team already in decline, a new knockout round that leaves no room for mistakes, and a refereeing decision that even leading experts said was wrong. Any one of those factors on its own might have been survivable. But when all three crashed together on one night in Foxborough, the outcome was almost inevitable. This is not about blaming everything on FIFA. Germany also has to take a hard look at itself. But the system FIFA created is what turned a slow decline that had been unfolding for years into a painful and very public collapse in front of the entire world. And this is the part that truly worries me, because this story is not going to end with this year's tournament. Before this World Cup has even finished, the South American Football Confederation has already officially proposed expanding the 2030 World Cup to 64 teams, adding another 16 teams to the current format. If that happens, the total number of matches would increase from 104 to 128, creating roughly 24 more matches to sell. Gianni Infantino himself has already met with South American football leaders to discuss the proposal. Just imagine it. If a 48-team tournament is already enough to create a knockout stage so unforgiving that it can swallow a 4-time world champion, then what will a 64-team tournament create? Even more matches to sell. Even more opportunities for a single refereeing decision to determine the fate of an entire national team. And even more football giants could find themselves heading home early, not because they played poorly, but because the structure of the tournament leaves no room for error. That is why Germany's elimination today should not be seen as the story of one night in Foxborough. It should be seen as an early warning. If this trend continues, then seeing a world champion eliminated after just one knockout match will no longer be a rare shock. It will become the new normal, built directly into the structure of the tournament itself. So now I want to return to the very question I asked at the beginning of this video. Germany were denied a goal by VAR that should have stood. 3 independent experts have made that clear, and I think it is difficult to argue otherwise. But what made one wrong decision powerful enough to eliminate one of the biggest teams in world football was not the referee alone. It was a tournament structure built to sell more matches, more tickets, and more advertising hours, even if the price is seeing a 4-time world champion sent home far earlier than anyone expected. So what do you think? If you have followed football through multiple World Cups, across many decades, do you still see the sport you fell in love with? Or do you feel it is gradually becoming a money-making machine that simply wears the shirt of football? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one,